This is Snowman in the Morning.
I don't know about y'all, but I'm ready to talk some football, some NFL football, as a matter of fact. And to help out with that, I got to have my senior NFL analyst in the form of Mike Debate ready to join me. How are you, sir? Good to have you.
Brian, always my honor, always my pleasure, buddy. It's great to be with you here, and it's always great to be talking football with you.
So let's do it. Let's start in the NFC West. We're going to break the entire NFC down. And first, we start in the NFC West, like I said, and we're going to Seattle. Talk about a crash and burn situation. This is one of them.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot of positives that you can take away right now. Obviously, Seattle is in for a struggle this year. There's no question about it. I mean, you look at the quarterback situation and whether you're going to go with Drew Lock or you're going to go with Geno Smith, it's going to be a tough situation for them to be able to do that. The defense, the offense right now, I mean, there's going to be struggles along the way. There are some bright spots and there are some things that Seattle fans can definitely look for in the future. But if you're looking for any type of immediate win totals or any type of immediate results, you're probably not going to get it if you're in Seattle this year. It looks like a tough year for them coming up.
Speaking of struggle, I say the Arizona Cardinals are going to struggle this year. Kyler Murray or no Kyler Murray because of no running game.
Yeah, without any question. I mean, this is a situation that we've talked about several times in the past, whether it be this team or whether it be other teams, Brian. In order to make sure that you're going to contend in a division, in a conference, for a Super Bowl title, you need to make sure that you have complementary pieces on your offense, complementary pieces on your defense too, but you need to have a complementary piece on your offense. And when you look at the fact that these guys are, really struggling when it comes to determining who's going to take on those running responsibilities when, obviously you've got DeAndre Hopkins, he's going to be suspended to start season. So, you're looking at Kyler Murray having a lot put on his shoulders. You need someone that's going to be able to take that pressure off. And I don't see it right now. I like Darrell Williams, but I just don't see a whole lot in that running game right now that fills me with a lot of optimism, especially when you're talking about two teams, that can really, really compete in that division. And I think we're going to be really going head on head, and that's the Los Angeles Rams and the San Francisco 49ers.
And let's go to Los Angeles. Let's talk about the world champion Rams. They got it done. Don't get it twisted. They got it done with Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp. But again, just like Arizona, there's that one piece that's missing. And I believe it's going to be the running game and the one piece that prevents them from defending their title.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, I like Cam Akers an awful lot. I mean, there's a lot to like there, but there has to be complementary pieces. There have to be third down specialists. There have to be guys that can take the pressure off when your primary running back isn't getting it done. For all intents and purposes, Sony Michel played a very vital role in that team last year, and I think maybe a little bit of an underrated role considering when you look at the pass catchers that Los Angeles is able to throw out there. There are a couple of guys that were there last year that aren't going to be there this year. Let's face it. I mean, Odell Beckham Jr. still remains unsigned. So, there are question marks in that offense right now. And if you're not a team that's going to be able to make those adjustments and get the running game in that you're going to need to utilize, it's going to be a long season in Los Angeles. So, at this point, I mean, they're going to be right there in the thick of things. I mean, please don't misconstrue. And I probably didn't do a great job of explaining it there. The Rams are definitely going to be a formidable team. There's no question about it. But in terms of their ability to just run roughshod over this division, I definitely do not see that whatsoever because I think they face a very, very tough task in trying to compete with the San Francisco 49ers. And again, I think it's going to come down to difficulty in the running game beyond Cam Akers and maybe Darrell Henderson. You're looking at a very difficult run there to be able to balance this offensive attack.
And let's look at the San Francisco 49ers. This is the team that I believe will regain control of the NFC West because they have the entire package. And yes, they're going with Trey Lance, but they still have Jimmy Garoppolo waiting in the wings. And I believe Kyle Shanahan has a surprise up his sleeve when it comes to Jimmy Garoppolo because all he does is win. Yes, you're putting it on the young fellow, but when you have the best running back, when you have the best running game in the league, split between a few backs, not to mention you re-sign Deebo Samuel, that can get you the tough yards, just as the Green Bay Packers. You got a tough task ahead of you when facing this team on both offense and defense.
Oh, no question about it. And I agree with you. I think there is still something there with Jimmy Garoppolo. And I think you will see him from time to time take select packages because for all intents and purposes, Brian, I know Jimmy is kind of the, national whipping boy now of a lot of people that, have come out against, this move or for this move, I should say, or against Jimmy. There were times where Jimmy looked like a Super Bowl caliber winning quarterback. I mean, he came within an eyelash from these guys, winning the world championship a couple of years ago against the Kansas City Chiefs. But for sailing a pass a little bit high, you get a situation where he might have been able to do the job. But you hit the nail on the head. This team is going to be driven by a phenomenal running game. I know Elijah Mitchell has his injury, issues, but when he gets going, Jeff Wilson Jr., Trey Sermon, these are guys that can definitely all run, and they can all run effectively. And when they're all clicking on every cylinder, it's very difficult to stop this team. Then you throw in the trifecta at the wide receiver position, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Juwan Jennings. Those guys can all make plays. And then I believe the most complete tight end in the game today, and that is George Kittle, Kyle Juszczyk at the fullback position. Tremendous amount to like about the San Francisco 49ers. And we've talked about this before. They have the offensive line to go through it, to get the job done. And they're going to continue to show that, in the 2022 season. Dare I say, I think the most complete team in this division.
Let's go to the NFC East, and we start in Dallas. You want to talk about a mess? Here it is.
Yeah, I think, Dallas is kind of like that Jekyll and Hyde type team. You look at the Dallas Cowboys and you look at what they bring to the table, and you see a lot of the star-studded names, up and down the depth chart. Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott. A lot of people are going to throw Tony Pollard into that mix. CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup. They've got names on this team that definitely look like they're formidable, but can you bring it all together? Can you meld this team into something that's going to be able to work this year? A lot of it is going to determine on how that offensive line plays. And I know that people are saying, well, Tyron Smith is going to be able to come on. He'll be, a factor. Maybe Tyler Smith comes in and is able to be the stabilizing force. Zach Martin is still a name on that line. But ultimately, if they're not getting the blocking done, that's going to take away from that two-headed monster that the Cowboys are capable of throwing out there in Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard. If they don't utilize Zeke the way they should, take a little bit of pressure off of Dak, this team's going to struggle this year. And I'm not saying miss the playoff struggle, but they're not going to be slamming for the division title that a lot of people think they are. There's a team in Philadelphia right now that I think is a little bit more complete and maybe a little bit more solid in all three phases of the game. We'll see what happens, but the Cowboys have something to prove to me in terms of being able to compete.
Speaking of being able to prove something, how about those New York Football Giants? Oh boy, they have a mountain to climb.
Yeah, they truly have a mountain to climb. I had an opportunity to watch this team up close and personal a couple of weeks ago when they visited Foxborough and they took on the New England Patriots. Look, there are things to bite on to if you're a Giants fan. I like the way Brian Daboll is getting aggressive with this team on both sides of the ball. They blitzed a little too much for me in the preseason game against the Patriots. That definitely was a little bit disheartening. But at the same time, I understand where Brian is coming from. He's kind of giving and putting the league on notice that we're not going to be a pushover. We're not going to be an also-ran. We know we're not going to be at the top of the division, so we have to kind of craft our own identity. So I get what he's doing, rubs some people the wrong way, but bottom line, they'll still be able to get the job done. Daniel Jones, I'm still not 100% sold that he is going to be their quarterback of the future, but if they do decide to go with him long term, they could definitely do a lot worse. I like what Danny brings to the table. I think he's got a lot of intestinal fortitude, as the late Gorilla Monsoon would say. He'll give you, and he'll compete every single time he takes the ball in his hand. Fundamentally, I think there's still some work to do, but in terms of heart, in terms of determination, he'll get the job done. Saquon Barkley obviously is going to be the cornerstone of what these guys can do. And, they've got two pretty good wide receivers in Kadarius Toney and Kenny Galladay. So I think they're going to have to settle into what they want to do offensively. On the defensive side of the ball, it's going to be about getting some of these young guys the opportunity to make things happen. They're still maybe a year or two away from really being a strong consideration in this division, but I think Brian Daboll is the guy that can bring them there. I like the philosophy he's bringing to New York.
Yeah, Daniel Jones still has a lot to prove for the football Giants. And I know I'm going to say this next team wrong, but I don't care. I'm old school. Let's look at the Washington Redskins. They are the wild card in this division. I've said it for the past 3 seasons, and Mike has been with me. I was right a couple of those times. I will say it again. The Redskins are a wild card team in this division if they can get it together and avoid the injuries.
Yeah, that's going to be the big key is can they avoid injuries? Can they stay healthy? Can Carson Wentz return to form that we haven't seen him play at that level? We haven't seen him play at since he was a member of the Philadelphia Eagles. Look, there's talent up and down this roster. There's no question about it. And on both sides of the ball, I know Washington's defense gets the lion's share of the credit, and they should. I mean, anytime you roll out Chase Young, you roll out Jamin Davis, you roll out, guys like Bobby McKean at the safety position. These guys have the capability of taking over a game. That is a very formidable front seven and a very good secondary. But there's talent on the offensive side of the ball too. Antonio Gibson is a solid runner, and I think he needs to get the opportunity to showcase that this year. Terry McLaurin, one of the better wide receivers in the division. Jahan Dotson, I think, has an opportunity to be one of the rookies that really kind of opens everyone's eyes. I really like this kid coming out of Penn State. I had scouted him as a potential, pick for the New England Patriots, in terms of their fit and what they were looking for. Obviously, Curtis Samuel is a big, he's a good acquisition, for them as well in terms of being able to advance this offense. But again, it's going to be determined by how the lines play. Have a lot of confidence in the defensive line, have some confidence in the O-line, but it's going to be about staying healthy and living up to expectation. If they can, they'll be in the mix. But if they sputter at all, they're going to find themselves probably behind both Philly and Dallas.
And here's the team I feel that will win the NFC East going away. That's the Philadelphia Eagles. Everybody is sleeping on them. They're sleeping on Jalen Hurts. They're sleeping on who they picked up in the offseason. But if you want to look for a complete team in the NFC East that has a potential to be a complete team, it's not in Dallas. It's in Philadelphia.
Yeah, without any question, I do believe it's in Philadelphia. And look, you want to talk about a team that has really gone and really, I think, grown by leaps and bounds in the offseason. I like Jalen Hurts. I think he's going to be a solid quarterback this year. I think he has a good team around him to be able to work with guys like Devontae Smith, guys like A.J. Brown, that I think adds a new dimension to this team as well. Miles Sanders can be a strong runner. Dallas Goedert, in my opinion, is a top flight tight end in the NFC. He'll give you some, but I really love what they've done with the defense, especially. And they've got 2 good players, from the University of Georgia this past year, whether it be Jordan Davis and whether it be Nakobe Dean. I love Nakobe's game. I know a lot of people say he's too small to play the linebacker position. This kid's going to be their starting linebacker by the end of the season. That's how much I love Dean. I really, really wanted to see the Patriots snag him. But him being in Philly, I think, is going to be a great fit for him. And again, stacked from top to bottom. So I like Philly as the best team in this division, and I think they're going to show that. I think they're the most solid team on both sides of the ball.
To the NFC North now, and we'll begin in Chicago. A mess on the offensive line. Justin Fields has a lot to prove. They don't have anybody for Justin Fields to throw to. And yet, there are some pundits out there that are, dare I say it, picking the Bears to win this division. But they have some holes to fill before they get that far.
Yeah, they've got some holes to fill before they get that far. And now with Roquan Smith and the contract situation there, I mean, there's a lot to unpack in Chicago right now. I know we love to, starts with a C, ends in an O, and has a hickag in the middle. I don't know if they're going to be doing a whole lot of the Bears chants in Chicago this season. It looks like it's going to be a long one. I love Justin Fields, and I think he's going to be a very good quarterback in this league. And I think he's Chicago's decision maker for the future. I
Yep.
really truly believe that. And if you surround him with the proper talent, this kid's going to prove to you that he can compete in this division for many years to come. But I just don't see enough of it as, from the pass catching standpoint to be able to compete. Byron Pringle is your number one option. Obviously, they're going to be without N'Keal Harry for a while. And, I know N'Keal very well from his time in New England. There's promise. There's definitely prowess there lurking somewhere below the surface. But until he's able to actually put it together and show it on the field, it's only going to be potential as opposed to practice. So I think that's going to be something that the Bears may want to, really keep a close eye on in terms of how he's going to be able to fit in. David Montgomery is a solid runner, but again, without a lot of opportunity to spread the ball around or to have pass catchers or tight ends that are capable of carrying the load, Cole Kmet may be able to do that eventually. But right now, I think Chicago just has too many questions on the offensive side of the ball to be able to get the job done.
Speaking of questions, let's go to Minnesota. You got the wide receivers, yes, but you have Kirk Cousins throwing to them. We'll start there.
Yeah, I know a lot of Minnesota fans were a little disheartened by the fact that Mac Jones was ranked higher than him on the NFL's top 100. But, go back, use your eyes, use your common sense. And there are reasons why, the players in the league, by the way, this is not, chosen by the media or any type of, things with bias. These were put through, very strategically by the players in this league. And there is a reason for that. I mean, Kirk, I think, is a very talented quarterback, and there are times where he looks like a top flight quarterback in this league, but there are times where he regresses into real problems making decisions and being able to do what he does well. So in terms of, a supporting cast around him, especially on the offensive side of the ball, there's a lot to like. I mean, Dalvin Cook, obviously, the personal situations aside, one of the best runners, if not the best runner in the NFL. You got Justin Jefferson, who I think is one of the top wide receivers in the league. Adam Thielen is still someone that can get the job done, or Smith at the tight end position. They've got a pretty good offensive line, maybe not the greatest in the NFL, but Christian Darrisaw is someone that I think can do some work this year as well. So these are all going to be issues, but how do they keep teams in check on the opposite side of the ball? They got some pretty good talent on that base 3-4 defense that they're going to roll out there this year. Minnesota, again, is a wild card. If all things come together and they click on all cylinders, this could be a team to watch in terms of competing for a playoff spot and really even maybe making a run. But if they sputter at all, or there are any kind of difficulties throughout the league, again, this has the potential of being a long season as well. So Minnesota is one of those teams right now that's on the edge. They're going to have a lot of things go right. If they do, could be a decent season there.
Speaking of long season, we go to Detroit. They are really gonna have a long season, especially when they put their offense in the hands of one Jared Goff.
Yeah, sorry to say it. I mean, I know that we had talked about Seattle and their struggles and how difficult things might be for them, but Detroit is going to be giving them a run for their money in terms of teams that are really, really going to struggle this year. Look, Jared is a serviceable quarterback, but he's not going to win you a ton of games. And with the supporting cast that he has around him, I think it's going to be difficult for him to be able to compete at all. Now, that's not to say that there's no talent in Detroit. I happen to really like Amon-Ra St. Brown as a wide receiver. I think he has a chance to be a better, wide receiver in this league. I like DJ Shark. I like the what he brings to the table as well. I think he can be a very good, number 2 solid option for the Detroit Lions. But again, with a lack of a decent running game, with a lack of an offensive line that can make the stops that you need. All respect to Penei Sewell, who I think is still one of the better, linemen in that division. Detroit's going to struggle, and on the defensive side of the ball, I think you're going to have some problems there as well. So seedlings have some talent in Detroit, but in terms of a cohesive unit that's going to be able to compete for a division title, there's too much working against them, and there are too many holes on this roster in order for them to be taken seriously as a team that can compete in the division.
So by default, the division belongs to the Green Bay Packers, minus Devontae Adams, minus a decent running game, but Aaron Rodgers is still around cooking.
Yeah, and as long as you have Aaron Rodgers, you always have a puncher's chance. I mean, there's no question about it. But the good thing for the Green Bay Packers is they've got a good supporting cast around them. They're going to miss Devontae Adams. And believe me, judging from the reports that I'm getting out of Las Vegas and joint practices with the Patriots this week, Devontae Adams looks like he has, definitely not lost a step, having Derek Carr throwing him passes. They supposedly looked very good and a very lethal combination in Las Vegas. So he continues to prove he is one of the best wide receivers, if not the best in the league. But Rodgers still has guys that he can rely on. Allen Lazard is someone he loves to throw to. Aaron Jones is still a very capable running back. Sammy Watkins, Randall Cobb, a little long in the tooth, but Aaron likes veteran wide receivers, and he's not going to be afraid to throw to these guys. Christian Watson, some injury, questions there and health questions, but once he gets going, I think he'll be a solid pick for them. Again, it's going to be, can he get the protection that he needs from the O-line? David Bakhtiari is going to definitely get healthy and be a part of that offensive line with guys like John Runyon and Josh Myers and Hanson and Jenkins. Those guys need to come together and give him the protection. And again, Green Bay is a team that loves to run that base 3-4 defense, and you look at what they're going to bring to the table, whether it be Preston Smith, whether it be Quay Walker, who I think can really turn some heads this year as a rookie, and in the inside part of the linebacking crew. This is going to be a team that I think essentially wins this division by default, but they're going to be a tough out for whoever faces them in the playoffs as well. And again, it's because of Aaron Rodgers and his prowess.
Now let's go to the NFC South, and we start in New Orleans. What the hell is going on there?
Well, my good buddy Ross Jackson, who covers the New Orleans Saints for Saint Wire and also for Locked On Saints, would probably be a little upset with me for saying this, but I do agree with you. I am a little perplexed by what we see. Obviously, I mean, Alvin Kamara is obviously one of their flagships. He's going to be the guy that's going to dictate what this offense is able to do. I've never been completely sold by Jameis Winston as a quarterback that can lead you to the playoffs and into a deep run, but there's talent on both sides of the ball for New Orleans. So they're going to have to put together they're going to have to put together a very good season on both sides. They're going to have to keep teams out of the end zone. There's a good, young, talented defense there that can do it. And there are explosive players that can break free and make plays if you need to on offense. The question is, will they get the opportunity to do so? Is Jameis going to be good enough to be able to lead this team from start to finish as the starting quarterback? Struggled a little bit last year, but at the end of the day, he's going to have to step up and prove that he could do it. But they do have Chris Olave, who I think is going to be an eye catcher this year. I liken him. I really, really liken this kid to like a Justin Jefferson type kid, one of the best route runners in that draft class. And with Jameis throwing him the ball, and I know I've kind of come at Jameis a little bit, he's a guy that can complete the deep pass, and he's got a tremendous arm on him. When these two guys hook up this season, it's going to be something really, really special to watch. So if you're a New Orleans Saints fan, circle that kid. Always keep your eye on him because I think he's going to be one of the more dynamic talents in the league this year.
We talked about messes before. You got this one in Carolina. You signed Sam Darnold to a 2-year deal. A year into it, you bring in Baker Mayfield. What?
Yeah, I mean, Carolina has its issues. And again, this is a team that I had a chance to watch up close and personal last week against the New England Patriots. For lack of a better term, my friend, it's going to be a long season in Carolina as well. There's a ton of question marks on the defensive side of the ball, a ton of question marks on the offensive side of the ball. Baker is now installed as the starting quarterback. Whether that's that much of an upgrade over Sam is, probably a conversation for another day. You'll get the contributions that you need from Christian McCaffrey when he's healthy and on the field. That's been his Achilles heel, is can he stay healthy and on the field when he can? He's one of the more dynamic talents at that position in the league. But again, it's just going to be difficult. And their top wideouts right now are dealing with some issues. They're dealing with some soft tissue injuries. We heard that say that last week. DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Terrace Marshall Jr. These guys have to get healthy and they have to be ready to go out there and compete. But if you're not getting the protection that you need on the offensive line, that's a problem. And then it's going to be, can the team get after the quarterback? Can they be able to shut other teams down? again, I think there's just too many questions on both sides of the ball.
And you see Tom Brady twice a year. You go to Atlanta. Marcus Mariota is their starting quarterback. But for how long?
Yeah, I mean, that's the question right now. I mean, Ritter is giving everyone the opportunity to see what he can do, and he looked pretty good the other night. I mean, it's it's one of those things where Mariota gives them the best opportunity to compete right now, simply because he's got the experience on his side. And, let's face it, Mariota, there is, something there to bite onto. I don't want to make it seem like, oh, well, he's just got the job by default. Some of that is a little bit on the truthful side, but the other part of it is that Marcus does bring things to the table that make him a pretty good dual threat quarterback. He can extend plays with his legs. He's got a pretty good arm. I think a better arm than people give him credit for, but who's he throwing the ball to? That's going to be the question. Cordero Patterson is a solid jet sweep runner out of the backfield. I love his game. I like Drake London, and I think he can be a good, solid wide receiver. Kyle Pitts, one of the better tight ends in the game, but it's going to all, again, come down to offensive line. And I think, whoever is taking snaps under center in Atlanta, I think is going to be running for their life in a good long, opportunity for whoever gets that. On the defensive side of the ball, there are some question marks. I think AJ Terrell really is emerged as one of the best, young cover corners in the game. But again, there's a little bit too much youth, a little bit too much inexperience on that side of the ball to really be effective, with the exception of Grady Jarrett. You're looking at guys right now that are still trying to make a name for themselves. So, yeah, possibly a long year for Atlanta right now in this division from top to bottom. They're going to struggle as well as Carolina is.
Which leaves the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, again, claiming this division by default. But when you have Thomas Edward Brady Jr., it ain't much of a default. Incredible what he's doing at age 44, soon to be age 45.
Yeah, it amazes me. He's got a few years on me, but not by many, Brian. And believe me when I tell you, I get up, I feel the aches and pains. The back takes a little while to straighten out. Brady's making us all look bad. He's making all of us 40-somethings look pretty bad by doing what he's doing at 45 years old. It really is amazing. But, there are question marks for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense that they didn't have the first 2 years that Tom Brady was there. First of all, Cameron Brate now takes over as the number one tight end. He does not have the security of Rob Gronkowski, knowing where to be, exactly how to be there, and making those catches that Gronk made so many years for Tom Brady. And beyond just the physical prowess and capabilities that he brings to the table, it's about the knowledge and the synchronicity that these two guys had when they played together. It truly was amazing. He's going to miss that this year. Obviously, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin are still going to continue, to be his primaries, but Godwin is a little banged up right now. Ronald Jones is no longer there. Leonard Fournette takes over as the number one running back. So, yeah, there's going to be some issues there, but I think the offensive line is still going to be okay. I know, Jensen obviously is banged up, but the addition of Shaq Mason at the right guard position is a great move for this team. I love Shaq. I loved covering him every second of the time he was up here in New England. And his knowledge of what Brady can do well will definitely bring a lot of knowledge to that offensive line. So offensively, they'll be okay. And this is a front seven that we know can get the job, and we've seen him do it twice now in the playoffs. They'll continue to be formidable. So, yeah, Tampa Bay wins by default, but they were probably going to win this division anyway, whether it be by default or whether it be through skill, because they're simply the most talented on both sides of the ball in this division.
That's our senior NFL analyst, Mike DeBate, joining us, breaking all things down with the NFC. And later this week, we'll break down the AFC. Is Patrick Mahomes the king again, or will Joe Burrow unseat him? We'll answer all those questions later in the week. Thank you, Mike. I love you. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Anytime, my friend. Love you too, my friend, and definitely looking forward to breaking down the AFC soon. Have a great one.
That's Mike DeBate joining us here, our senior NFL analyst. We had some great comments from Pro Football Explorer, who joined us. Falcons are going to be picking first in the draft in 2023. They say no adjustment to their line, and the defense is still a tire fire. There was something about New Orleans. This right here, solid team, but the chef left. That's Sean Payton talking all things New Orleans Saints at the time. And to the NFC East, his comment: the Eagles are a solid team, but they need to improve against playoff teams. That I'll agree with. 0-6 against playoff teams and 1-7 against teams with a winning record. And for you to compete for a Super Bowl, you got to beat teams that have a winning record. And I haven't seen it in Philadelphia in a very, very long time. Join us on Patreon at patreon.com/SIT morning. A lot of behind the scenes stuff is waiting for you, and there's more to be filmed. Back after this.
This is Snowman in the Morning.